Nemo Radio is on the air.
A, B, C. A, always B, B, C, closing. Always be closing. Always be closing.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
Hey, it's John Nemo. So excited to have you joining me for another episode of Nemo Radio, continuing to share some different sections from the all-new, revised, and updated version of LinkedIn Riches. Now, if you haven't ever heard of LinkedIn Riches, or you've never listened to the audiobook or anything like that, this is the book that I wrote all the way back in 2014, and then I've updated it several times over the years. I recently went back and re-recorded the entire audiobook and rewrote the entire paperback version and Kindle version. I more than doubled the size, so if you are interested in picking up the full book, you can do that on Amazon, get the paperback version, complete with photos of me and my Zubas, wearing a popcorn bucket on my head. Great fashion artwork in that print edition. The Kindle one as well has the photos. Otherwise, if you go to Audible, you can get the full audiobook too. But I thought it would be fun here on the podcast to actually release different sections of the audiobook so I can take deeper dives here on the podcast into different sections of the actual book itself. And today I want to share, there's a big section, it's like 3 hours long, so I actually broke it up into multiple chapters. But it's a section on the 6 steps that you can take to, generate and qualify and close leads on LinkedIn. So today I want to share part 1 of that, kind of the first couple of steps out of these 6 different steps that really help you understand what it takes to actually qualify someone as a lead on LinkedIn, and more importantly, than how to actually close them, how to turn them into a paying customer. So without further ado, let's dive in. Chapter 6, the 6 steps to qualify and close leads on LinkedIn. Let's dive into the actual steps now that you can take to qualify and close leads on LinkedIn. And there are 6 specific steps to qualify and close deals on LinkedIn. So I'm going to walk through these one at a time, all 6 steps. The first step, step 1, is building your list. Obviously, everything starts with building a list of prospects who, in theory, again, should be your ideal client. They should check every box, fit all the criteria for an ideal client. Now, depending on the product or service you provide and what your perfect client looks like, it's different for everyone. So LinkedIn, especially with the paid subscriptions like Sales Navigator, has so many great filters to go through 1 billion people and build this pitch perfect list. So let me give you some examples. I won't go through every single filter on Sales Navigator, but I'll give you an idea of some of what you can do if you're not familiar with it. So again, this is at the higher level paid Sales Navigator. You can filter and build a list based on someone's job title, how long they've been in his or her role, how long someone's been at a certain company. So you can be like, I want a CEO who's been the CEO for at least 10 years. That's an example. You can look at type of company, type of industry. You can also look in some instances at revenue, like a company that has this much in annual revenue or reports this much. You can look at company headcount. How many employees do they have? Location, geography, where are they located? You can filter it by where someone went to school. You can filter, did someone recently change jobs on LinkedIn? Did someone recently post content on LinkedIn, implying they're active? And then you can go look at all their content and, figure out a road in through that. You can also look and see, does someone list certain skills? So they might say, I'm proficient in, this software and that software. Maybe you sell software for a living and your best clients are people that use QuickBooks who you want to switch to yours. And if they list QuickBooks as a skill or as a software, then you can go say, hey, it looks like, unless LinkedIn's misleading me, sounds like you're a QuickBooks user. How are you finding that? Are you running into this issue and that issue and that issue? The reason I ask is we have a software that eliminates all that. So that's how you can use those, filters through skills. You can also filter by seniority level, like meaning are they a decision maker or not? You can filter by are they in certain LinkedIn groups? You can even filter by certain keywords in their LinkedIn headlines. If they have certain certifications or letters after their name or keywords in there that you want to say, I want everyone who who has this word in their LinkedIn headline and build a list of those people. You can use even more filters, but those are some of the most common. You also can do what's called a Boolean search, which are these long search strings, and I can explain more on that later. And in our training bonuses, I think I have some on Boolean searches, but you can get really nuanced. The point of it is start here. Who are your best clients? Who are your best customers? Describe everything in your mind you can about those people. What roles do they have? What are their job titles? What type of companies are they in? How big are their companies in terms of how many employees? How long have they been in the role? Your ideal clients. You're going to make this little list, these little, bullet list of like, this is the ideal person. They have this job title. They've been in their role for this many years. They're at a company with this many employees. They're located here. They're in this industry, whatever it is, all as many as you need. And then just keep it simple, because if you already know your ideal client is person X, how do you find more people just like that person on LinkedIn? You just basically make an avatar campaign. Like, how do I find people exactly like Sally Jones, who's my pitch perfect client? I'm a big fan of building lists that way. Find the people who are already paying you, who already are having success, who you already have great stories and case studies about, and make more lists of those exact people on LinkedIn. So for me, I'm making lists all days long of accountants, bookkeepers, and CPAs, and using the Catherine Bishop case study, because that's easy for me to immediately have context for a conversation, demonstrate expertise with people just like them, saying, oh, you've helped Catherine Bishop. I do exactly what she does. Okay, great. So you can also, and I talked about this earlier, but you can build lists too based on your own journey. So your personal work history. So maybe you worked in a certain industry or studied a certain field or were in a certain role, but now you've pivoted out to do this other thing as a coach or a consultant. You can still go back and build lists of people in those industries, because if you can provide services to them, they're going to feel like, oh, well, this is cool. You came up in our industry, so you know the unique challenges we have. You've been in our role, and now you coach and consult for people to help us get these benefits. So I like doing that if you've walked the walk, going back to those industries, and kind of people instantly will connect with you. You can speak the same language. You have easy rapport. Going back to when I started Nemo Media Group, my one client was a debt collector. I had worked for a debt collection trade association, so that's why I niched my lists initially to debt collection agency owners, because it was easy for me to immediately kind of build rapport and start talking to them. However you want to do it, that's the first step, is building a quality list of prospects on LinkedIn to make sure you're not going to waste your time with your outreach. Now, step 2 is going to be, after step 1, the list building. Step 2 is going to be the outreach and the free content. So we've already talked about this quite a bit, but once you've got that list built, you're going to reach out one-on-one to each person on the list and offer up, with that one sentence message, some sort of free piece of content, like an ebook. And once they say yes, you're going to deliver that free content, and then you're going to start following up in, one-on-one messages after that. Now, this is a really important part of the process. Before you talk to a prospect live, you're going to want to make sure they go through your content. As I said earlier, it's much easier on a sales call if the person actually went through and read a 5 or 10,000 word ebook about you and knows your whole backstory and how you help people just like them, and the case studies and all the examples and expertise. It's much easier to get them to go through that. Warms them up, all that good stuff. This is where the fortune's in the follow-up. So don't think just because someone says yes and you send the ebook that your job is done. Now your job is to follow up with the person until they confirm they went through the ebook, and then asking questions about it. So here's an example of how to have fun with your follow-up. I think that's the other key thing on LinkedIn is, remember, the money's in the mailbox on LinkedIn, but it's also in kind of being personal and kind of having a fun conversational tone. So here's an example of how I might do it when I send someone an ebook. So say I offer a free ebook, someone says yes. Say this happens on Tuesday. I might follow up Thursday and say, hey, did you have a chance to check out the ebook yet? And maybe they'll say, no, I'm going to get to it over the weekend. Okay, cool. I'll send them a message on Monday morning that will say, hey, did you have a chance to dive into the ebook over the weekend, or did Netflix get in the way? Haha, like I'll do a laughing emoji. But the point is to make your messaging casual and fun and putting some of your personality into it. Remember, at this point, they're already a lead. They've said they're interested in your topic. They're interested in your free content. So talk with them like you would, if you're texting a friend or having coffee or whatever. And then depending on what the person says, you're going to pivot the conversation accordingly. So the key here in these follow-up one-on-one messages with your outreach is asking questions to get the person first to verify they go through the content, but then also to explore what resonated. Did it illuminate an urgent need for them? Is there something that you can expand on for them? So here's an example of how the conversation could unfold. So maybe you say, hey, did you have a chance to dive into the ebook over the weekend like you planned? Or did Netflix get in the way? And then you do like a laughing emoji. And the prospect says, haha, I did read it. It was good. Well, don't stop there, right? Now you're going to say, hey, that's awesome. So what resonated? What stood out to you from the ebook? Or maybe hey, that's great. What did you find most helpful? You want them to tell you, right? And then the prospect might say, oh, for sure, the part about XYZ. That was super interesting. I didn't realize you could do that. And then you might say, that's great. So do you guys currently run into issues around XYZ? If so, have you tried ABC to fix it? Because again, you're kind of poking and prodding now. You're trying to figure out, they said this part of the ebook was most insightful and why. Then you can say, oh, is that an issue for you? Is that a challenge for you? Have you guys tried to do this to fix it? And then let them tell you. Like they'll be oh no, that's something we've been meaning to get to, blah, blah, blah. And then you can say, well, great. Well, I actually help a lot of people just like you fix that. Would it make sense to maybe talk live and I can give you, kind of an overview and see, I'll give you an honest answer. I'll look at your situation more in depth on Zoom and just tell you if I think I could be of service. Okay, sure. Let's book a time to talk. So that's the idea of kind of moving it from LinkedIn messaging and kind of chit-chatting and, illuminating the issue and then seeing, is there a place I could add more value? Would it make sense to talk live? Would it make sense for us to explore this more in depth? I'm happy to take a look at your specific situation and give you an honest assessment of whether or not I think an approach like XYZ could help you, like the one I outlined in the ebook. So again, it's placing yourself as the authority, as the expert, making sure they've read the content, asking them what resonated, what stood out. Are they having that same issue in their business? Would it make sense to talk more live to see if you can help them even more? Oftentimes, too, someone might read your content and say, man, I just love that. We should talk. There you go. That's a magic word right there. So if you go back to the analogy I used of, say, a random CPA reaches out to me on LinkedIn and says, hey, John, would you like a free copy of my ebook, 7 Tax Saving Strategies Every Minnesota Small Business Owner Needs to Know? Say I read the ebook and the CPA follows up with LinkedIn messages and asks me what resonates most. Maybe I reply and say, yeah, I checked and my CPA isn't doing tips 3, 4, and 6. I can't believe that. It looks like I'm missing out on serious cash. Now, this is important. You never want to make someone feel stupid. Right? That's obvious. But again, here's the idea. If someone says, oh, yeah, in my situation, if I say, man, I'm really frustrated. My CPA is not doing X, Y, and Z. Now, if that CPA who sent me the free ebook is smart and they know how to handle people and they've read Dale Carnegie's books, they're not going to say, oh, boy, you should fire your CPA and hire me. Because guess what? I'm the idiot that hired the CPA that is not doing a good job for me. So I don't want to lose face and bruise my precious ego and admit I'm an idiot and I'm dumb that I hired the wrong person. What that CPA who sent the ebook should say to me is something like this. Oh, man, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, I'm sure it's not anything intentional or anything sinister on the part of your current CPA. I know a lot of CPAs aren't as dialed in on this as I am, especially at the state-specific level. I'm kind of a tax nerd. This is just my passion. I'm a nerd. I geek out on this stuff. Hey, listen, would it be helpful? I mean, I'm happy to kind of take a deeper look at your books and kind of give you an idea if there's anything else you're missing. Do you want to talk live? You want to set that up? Well, in that case, then I feel like, oh, good. They're not insulting me and saying I'm stupid and I hired the wrong CPA. They're just kind of saying, more like, oh, don't worry about it. Not everybody's on top of it as I am. And they're offering to help me more and demonstrate more expertise. Well, I'm going to say, heck yes. I'm going to meet with that CPA. They're going to find all kinds of things that are, wrong. And they're going to point out more ways to save me money. Why am I not going to just switch and hire them? Correct? I mean, that's just such a simple thing. Your prospect's not going to be like, oh, great. Thanks for all the free advice. I'm going to steal it all and go educate my current vendor to be better. No, they're just going to switch to you. That's the key thing. And that's what content done well looks like. That's what you want to do. Now, what do you do if you offer free content and you kind of get a collective, like people are like, yeah, it was okay. Or people don't respond, or they say, I didn't really find it helpful. Ooh, right? Like, what's that all about? Ask for feedback. Do not be shy. Like, maybe your free tips and maybe your insights are too basic. Maybe they're too generic. Maybe they're not helpful. Did you hold back? Did you not give your top shelf tips that people pay you for? Maybe you missed the mark in your delivery. Maybe you didn't tell your story enough. Maybe you didn't talk enough in terms of what your ideal client wants or prospect wants. You need to swallow your pride and ask for insights. So I'll give you a good example of how I learned this early on in my business. So back when I was first selling online courses, like 2014, 2015 era, I used to sell them via webinars. And so I would do live webinars using a tool called Webinar Jam. And that would allow me, what was really cool about it was after the webinar was done, say 100 people signed up for the webinar, Webinar Jam would show me, it would say, hey, here's everyone that attended the live webinar, stayed through the sales pitch, and bought your course. And then you could filter it and it would say, hey, here's everyone who signed up for the webinar but didn't show up at all. And then you could filter it again and it would say, hey, here's everyone who signed up for the webinar, showed up, but left before you got to the sales pitch at this, 20-minute mark or whatever it was. And what I could do then is I could message people for feedback. So if they bought, obviously great, I'm putting you into a funnel to deliver the online course and sell other stuff, whatever. But for people that completely missed the sales pitch, then I could send a custom email like, hey, I'm so sorry you missed. I actually explained toward the end of the webinar, it looks like you had to hop off. I'm sure something came up and got in the way. But if you'd like to know more about, how I can help you take this further, here's a link to what you missed the offer, right? So you could kind of let people go back and, if they wanted to purchase it or whatever. But the key group, and what I want to focus on here, was people that stayed on for the webinar, saw the sales pitch, and did not buy the product. What I would do in that case was send them an email asking for feedback. Because again, I had a list of 20, 30, 40 people who didn't buy, and I had their emails and names. Now, important to note, I was not trying to sell them at this point. Instead, my goal was to get feedback because I wanted to figure out why they didn't buy so that I could change it the next time out. So what I would do is I would literally send this email to people after the webinar. And I could do it right away because as soon as the webinar was done, I could hop on Webinar Jam and within 5-10 minutes, see, okay, of the 100 people that signed up, 50 were on live. These 30 didn't buy but saw the sales pitch. I would immediately start emailing them one after another. And the subject line would say, thank you plus quick question. And the email would say, thanks so much for attending my live webinar today on blank. Also, I was curious, why didn't you buy, and then it'll be the name of the product, why didn't you buy this course? And I'd say next, don't worry, I'm not here to do a hard sell, I promise. Rather, I just love any feedback you have, good, bad, or ugly, so I can improve my process and provide more value the next time out on my webinars. And people, guess what? They'd write back and they would give me honest feedback because they're like, oh, you're not going to try to resell me? Okay, well, the reason I didn't buy is blank, or the reason I didn't buy is this or that or that. Once I knew those things, guess what I could do? I could change the webinar. So people would tell me, they would give me specific objections. The next time out, I could address those in the webinar. So one time somebody said, well, I would have bought, but you didn't have a payment plan. And I the one-time payment was too high for me. If you had a payment plan, I probably would have bought. So the next time before I did the webinar live, guess what I did? I went in my shopping cart software and I made a payment plan. I said, hey, if you want to sign up today, you can get a one-time payment for this. And if you prefer a payment plan, you can do 6 payments of this. And then I was able to sell more as a result. Or someone would say, yeah, I didn't like this part of what you offered. I really wanted to see if there was a money back guarantee because I've been burned before by online courses. So the next time I went on my webinar, I said, hey, great news. This comes with a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. And guess what? I sold more courses because I didn't even think in my head, offer that. Like, until people tell you what they want, and then you can give it to them. Now, I would say all told, I probably revised my webinar like 47 times in like 6 months. I mean, it was bonkers. I did the work. I asked for feedback, and then I actually took the feedback and changed things. And it was hard work because I had everything pre-done, and I had slides pre-built, and I had copy pre-done, and videos pre-done. I had to redo them all. But guess what? I wanted outcomes. I wanted results. So I would listen to people and do that. So do the same thing with your LinkedIn content. If you're not getting effusive praise and interest from your ebook, ask. Just be like, hey, Can you just be honest with me? Was the ebook helpful at all? Like, I'm just looking to improve. I'm not here to sell anything. I would just love your honest feedback. Like, if the ebook didn't resonate, could you tell me why? And they'll tell you, they'll be like, yeah, the headline seemed boring, or yeah, it just seemed like every other ebook I've ever read. It was pretty generic. Or yeah, I didn't really get hooked in at the beginning and I kind of lost interest because you didn't have a good lead, right? So, or, it was a bunch of stock art and it just looked kind of amateurish. Oh, you didn't have a professional design. Okay. So those are all things you can fix before you go to another 100 people offering the same ebook. Now that's the idea, is asking for feedback, making changes. If your free content's not working, ask why. People are happy to tell you. Next up is the third step in the process. So step 3 is LinkedIn conversations. Now, I just alluded to this in the previous step, that once someone has your free content, you need to, move the follow-up to one-on-one conversations, and you want to get people to one of 3 responses. Either no for now, no, like ever, or yes, let's talk more. The goal is to get them to yes, no, or maybe. Okay, so let's say those 3 options, yes, no, or maybe. No for now means maybe. You want to get them to yes, no, or maybe as fast as possible. And you're going to do this initially by following up until the person goes through the content and gives you feedback on it. Once you have feedback on your content, you can either go back and improve it if it's not good enough, or if there's something missing. If they say, well, I liked your ebook, but I didn't see examples of you working with anyone just like me, so that's why I'm hesitant to want to learn more. Oh, okay, well, I do have a case study of someone just like you. Let me update the ebook with that. Or if they give you feedback and you see that there's parts of your ebook or your content that resonated, then it's worth talking about. Now try to move them to a call. And while I can't obviously script out every single scenario or conversation across, hundreds of industries and niches, in the space and the time that we have here in this audiobook, the general idea of this is pretty simple. Once somebody says what they liked most about your ebook or your free content, go deeper into the topic and how it impacts their current situation. So that's where you're going to ask these qualifying questions. You can go even beyond what they tell you in their message by looking at their profile page. So maybe they say, yeah, I really liked your ebook. XYZ really resonated with me. That's a challenge for us. You can then message them and go, hey, I also looked at your profile page. Thanks for telling me that. By the way, I looked at your profile page. I noticed you guys provide ABC. So how are you currently getting around that XYZ issue with that? I know we've worked with a lot of clients in that space. That's a real problem for. What are you guys doing about that? Or maybe you say, well, curious, have you tried so far solving XYZ this way? Have you tried that? If so, how's it gone? Like, is that working for you? Or what are you currently doing? And then again, pivot around. Like if they say they're doing certain things and getting mixed or bad results, ask them, well, why do you think that is? Why do you feel like you're missing the mark, or what do you think's not going? Because you want to illustrate pain. You want to agitate the pain. You want them to tell you, yeah, we're trying YouTube ads right now. They're just not working. She's like, well, why do you think that is? I just don't think our audience is on YouTube. Oh, okay. Well, where do you think your audience is? Well, I think they're probably on LinkedIn. I think we're probably missing something with LinkedIn. Oh, okay. Well, would you want to meet more to talk about that? Because that's actually, I help people use LinkedIn. So if you want to explore LinkedIn more, I can give you an honest assessment of whether or not I think your audience is on there, and then off we go, right? We're off to a sales call. So these kind of questions, another one as simple as, well, okay, well, thanks so much for the feedback. Are you looking for more help or more insight on this? Like, especially around that topic you mentioned, would it be helpful for us to take a deeper dive? Like, I'm happy to take a deeper look at your specific situation. I like saying that. I'm happy to look at your specific situation, your unique situation. And I like saying this, and I'm happy to give you an honest assessment of whether or not I think you'd benefit from XYZ type approach. Like, I'm happy to look at your specific situation and give you an honest assessment of whether or not I think you'd benefit from this type of approach. If you ask those types of qualifying and discovery questions, that's going to get you to the yes, we should talk now. No, not right now. This isn't a good time. Or, never. Like, no, I don't think I want to look at this ever. Okay. And if someone says yes, great. Move them to the next step in your process of qualifying them. And we'll talk more about that if you have questions. For some people, the next step in their process at this point is immediately booking a Zoom call, a sales call. For other people, it might be, oh no, the next step is now they have to fill out an online form. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. It depends on your own personal situation. If they say no for right now or maybe, that can typically mean something like, hey, listen, I'm interested in this, but I can't even look at it until tax season is over. Or, hey, I'm interested in this, but I'm actually going on vacation for a month. I'm taking a sabbatical. Can we talk after that? Or, hey, I want to look at this, but I've really got this other more pressing issue. I've got to hire a new CFO, and I can't really even think about this until I get a CFO in place. In those instances, you want to make a note and then follow up with the person accordingly, right? So if it's date-based, make a note that after tax season, you're going to come back to them with context. Save it in your notes right now. Okay, circle up on, May 1st and be like, hey, I hope you made it through tax season okay. I know when we talked in March, you were very interested in XYZ, and you said to circle back. Now that the dust is cleared, would you want to, re-engage about this or whatever, right? Or if they say it's something around, hey, I have to solve this other problem first, like I have to find a CFO or I have to hire such and such, you can go Dale Carnegie on the bit, right? If you've got time, help them solve their urgent problem so they can get to your offering right now. So for example, if they say, I really need to find a CFO, you could say to them, well, hey, do you have a job listing or do you have a link online? Like I know a lot of people who are CFOs, like I'd be happy to pass the link out to them to see if I can find you some candidates. Or, hey, I actually know recruiters. Like, are you using recruiters? Would that be helpful to connect you with the person I've used for C-suite recruiting? Or, is there something I can do to help? There's all these different ways you can kind of provide more value. And there's a great story that Dale Carnegie tells in How to Win Friends and Influence People that really illustrates this. So it's from the 1930s, right? So it's about a stamp collection, all this stuff. But long story short, the person, the sales guy, he is trying to get this prospect to, talk to him and share information and get what he needs. And the prospect keeps blowing him off, sending him away, like, come back, I'm too busy today. And so one of the times that he calls on this prospect and goes to his office, he notices the guy has a book of stamps open, like a stamp collecting book. He's like, oh, do you collect stamps? And the prospect's like, no, it's actually my son. He's 12, and I'm trying to help him find some rare stamps. He's really into it, blah, blah, blah. I don't have time for you today. Get out of here, basically. And so the guy leaves, but he realizes as he goes back, he's like, you know what? The place I work for, and this is a sales guy who works for a bank, a big international bank, we have stamps from all over the world because, people are sending us different bills and checks and whatever. So he goes down to their department and he finds some of the most rare stamps that they have that they don't care about, just used envelopes. And he goes back to this prospect and says, hey, I don't want to take up too much of your time today. I just thought this might be helpful for your son. I actually brought some stamps over, some pretty rare ones from around the world that our bank has collected. I'd love for you, if your son would like these, he can add them to his, collection. And then, of course, the prospect goes crazy and is able to like, oh, wow, my son will love this. He'll flip over this one and that one. And now, yeah, what did you want to talk to me about again? And then all of a sudden they're having a sales conversation and the guy ends up getting everything he needs and more out of this prospect because he, appealed to that kind of today problem that the prospect was having as far as, oh, I'm trying to help my son with this. And again, it's another road in to kind of solve a current thing the prospect is focused on so they can get to you. And obviously, if they're bringing you value, that's an even better way to kind of, ingratiate yourself to the prospect. Now, if a person says to you, no, like ever, right, to your engagement, your responses, that's fine. Like take them off your list. When I'm prospecting, for LinkedIn clients, that's great. If people are going to say to me, I'm retired, I already have a service, I already have a guy, I don't do lead generation, I only do referrals, that's fine. I don't spend any time trying to argue with them. This is a big thing I had to learn early on because early on I had that scarcity mindset where it was like, well, I got to convince them. I got to cajole them. I got to show them they're wrong. And they already have someone. Maybe I can be better than that person. And what I found was, again, to go back to Dale Carnegie, a couple of great phrases that I learned from him. He said, win the argument, lose the sale. So I can argue with you that you should use LinkedIn for lead generation. I can argue with you that I think I can do a better job than your current vendor. I can argue with you that you can't just live off referrals. But this leads to the other point that Carnegie says. A person convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. Right? So you can win the argument, you're going to lose the sale. If you convince someone against their will, they're going to be of the same opinion still. It's kind of this classic thing of understanding that people's egos are very precious to them, and you can't win an argument and then have someone go, yeah, you're right, now I want to work with you. People, we don't want to lose face. We don't want to let our guard down. As Dale Carnegie says, when you're dealing with people, let us remember we're not dealing with creatures of logic. We're dealing with creatures of emotion, creatures bristling with prejudice and motivated by pride and vanity. Never forget that when you're interacting on LinkedIn, and it's like the story I shared earlier about, the scenario where the CPA is reaching out to me. They need to let me save face by saying, oh, I'm sure your current CPA, it's not their fault. I'm sure they just weren't as up to speed as I am. I'm a nerd about it. Like, let me save face and not have to admit I'm an idiot. I hired the wrong person, right? So let's also talk now about qualifying even further. And this is where, again, some people at this stage will move you right to a call if you've got interest and you've done everything we've already talked about. There's another level that you can do that I'm going to talk about. And if you want to use it, great. And if you don't, that's okay too. But what I'll call in step 4 is a qualifying form. So I've done all the work. I've engaged someone. They're interested in the content. I've illustrated a pain point. They want to learn more. They're interested in our services. They want to see if I can help them. I used to immediately move them to a sales call. Now, instead, I move them to a qualifying form. And let me explain how this came about. It all started because I'm dumb. It took me way too long to figure this out. But once I did, it really skyrocketed the quality of my leads. More importantly, it saved me countless hours of time and also tons of energy. And it's also made my sales process far easier. And I'm talking about before I get on the phone live with a prospect or on Zoom Live, it's using a qualifying form. So let me explain that. What I realized was, I learned so much from failure. I would fail over and over and over again on these sales calls, and the same things would happen on every single call. It was the same objections coming up over and over and over again. And like an idiot, each time I would be surprised, like, wow, another person saying they can't afford it, or wow, another person saying they need to talk to so-and-so first. I was like, so finally I just started writing down, like, what are these objections that keep coming up over and over and over again on these live sales calls? And wouldn't it be helpful if I knew ahead of time how to combat these objections, or not even to get on the phone or Zoom with them if I knew that they had this issue? So I'm going to give you some examples of what I ran into. And again, failure is a great teacher. And if you haven't done a lot of sales calls yet and you don't know what your common objections are, I would not start right away with a qualifying form. I would do the calls. And I would learn, because you're going to learn when you talk to enough prospects live. What are the common objections? What are the key obstacles? What keeps coming up over and over and over again that tanks the call, that stops a deal from getting done? And then we can reverse engineer that. So let me tell you a little bit about our situation so you can see. So these were the common objections that came up again and again and again on my sales calls with prospects about our done-for-you LinkedIn lead generation. Somebody would say, hey, I'm not the decision maker. This all sounds great to me. We've just spent an hour together, but now I have to go talk to my business partner, my spouse, etc., and get them involved. I was like, really? You're going to remember everything we just did for an hour, and we're on this emotional high, and I put all this energy in, and now we're left. Like, I can't do anything, right? Or they would say, well, this really isn't an urgent issue for me right now. I'm more just exploring. I'm just more curious. I'm in the exploring stage. It's like, so that's another brutal one. I don't have budget for this right now. I can't afford it. It costs too much. Others would say, hey, listen, I've used agencies like yours in the past, and it hasn't worked. So I'm really skeptical. I'm really, I don't know if working with you will be any different. Another objection I would run into time and again was, I'm hesitant. It just doesn't sound like you work with people exactly like me. And I'm just not sure. I mean, none of the examples you've shared are people that I can relate to. It's not what I do for work. I don't really know. I mean, it worked for those people in that industry. I don't know if it would work for me specifically. My industry is pretty unique and different. The other thing I would run into, again, as a common objection was, well, the ROI really won't make sense. You're charging me X. One new sale for me is Y, so I'd have to make this many sales to really recruit my investment. I just don't know if that makes sense for me financially. Also, on these calls, over and over and over again, there would be mindset issues or, vibe check, right? Where it'd be like, oh yeah, this person has a scarcity mindset, or They, we don't see eye to eye on how we should approach things. There would be a lot of that, or how they viewed and measured success, how they viewed and valued marketing. How did they view lead generation? For example, did they view working with us as an investment or as an expense that should be minimized, or an investment of, hey, I'm playing the long game, I want to build my brand, or was it just an expense? It's a math equation, dollars in, dollars out. I want to pay you as little as possible for as much money as possible. All these different things. So after, and I'm sorry to have to admit this to myself out loud and to you, after years, years of this, running into the same situations, but listen, I'm slow. Hopefully you're faster than me. After years of running into these situations over and over and over again on these sales calls, I finally realized there had to be a better way. And again, like as I said earlier, nothing's more deflating than pouring all your time and talent and energy into like a 45 or 60 minute sales call, only to hear at the very, very end, wow, this all sounds great, but ... And then it's like, oh, I'm stuck, right? And inevitably, what I had learned was if I don't close someone on that call, inevitably it's either so much extra work to try to re-engage, re-energize, rebuild all the rapport and all the, everything involved, or they just cool off and go away and just change their mind. So I just was so defeated and drained by this. I also understood, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So I finally got it. And I thought, well, wait a minute. What if I could come into a sales call already knowing the answers to many of the objections I just talked about? Like, for instance, what if I knew ahead of time the person had a business partner? Well, then I could make sure if they booked the call that their business partner also could be there, right? Like, I wouldn't do the call if you can't all be there. Or, for example, if the person told me ahead of time, hey, I'm more just exploring right now. I'm just in educational mode. This isn't super urgent. Well, then I could decide, maybe I don't want to do that call right now. Maybe that's not the best time. So I came up with this approach to qualify people first via like a brief online form. So I would also do it in a Dale Carnegie way, because again, I want to frame it so that it sounds like I'm doing the prospect a favor and not it's just all about me. So this is what I would say to the prospect if they were interested in talking live. Hey, I'm so excited you want to meet and talk live, etc. Before we hop on a live call, I want to make sure that I don't waste your time, and I want to make sure I can provide as much value as possible. So if you don't mind, if you can just take a couple minutes to fill out this quick online form, and then I would link to it. That way I can come into the call super prepared, have some personalized insights and ideas based on your unique situation. And then also once I review your form, then we can book the live call. Or I'll be honest with you, if I don't think I can help you, if I don't think I'm the right person or I can find you a better resource, I'll let you know that too and save you the time. And then I would say, I can't wait to hear more about what you're going on. Here's a link to the form or whatever. And that way I framed it in terms for the prospect of like, hey, I don't want to waste your time. I want to be as prepared as possible. I want to bring you as much value as I can. And if I don't think I can help you, I don't want to, make you sit there for an hour and then me tell you that. Now, the real reason was I want to get all your objections ahead of time so I know if I want to even take the call, of course. So now, as of this recording, we use a software called Typeform. I only say that because people always ask, well, what do you use? Like, one of the funny things, a little aside, is people always are asking, what tools? It often doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what tool you use. It's more about the tactic and the strategy and executing. I think there's a certain subset of people that like to feel like they're doing something by exploring tools and, I'm going to explore this software and this tool. And it's like, just go do the work, right? Like, so I don't care if you use Google Form, Typeform, SurveyMonkey, whatever. It doesn't matter. We use Typeform. One thing I will say, the key is to choose what, people call a smart form, so it can do conditional logic. That means like if-then responses, or like Choose Your Own Adventure from the 80s. Do you remember those books, Choose Your Own Adventure, where it's like, if you want to do this, go to page 10. If you want to go there, go to page 44. Like, and it was different, based on your decision, it would take you a different route. There are now forms, Typeform does this obviously, and I think a lot of other forms do as well, where if you say yes, it goes to this question. If you say no, it pops up this box and asks you to clarify, and then it goes to the next question. So that has proven to be a game changer for me, because what a pre-qualifying online form does is it really frames things differently. It gives me the authority, it gives me the leverage. It helps me eliminate, obviously, tire kicker and time waster calls. I just won't get on a call if someone, answers the form a certain way. But again, you've got to qualify, and this is a great process to do it. The caveat here is you've got to know ahead of time what are the key questions you need to know before you get on a call, as opposed to just guessing. And the only way you're going to learn that is by doing a lot of calls live and learning. So the process, though, if you do it well, it kind of gives you the best of both worlds. You can still provide value to people and give them great advice on these calls, but more importantly, you can protect your time. Right? You can make sure I'll give you an example. If someone is clearly not a lead, or for example, if someone says on the type form, I'm just more exploring right now, more wanting to get educated, learn more about LinkedIn, I'll say, that's fantastic. I don't want to take up an hour of your time on a call trying to teach everything to you live. It would be really hard to stay with it. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's a free copy of my book, LinkedIn Riches. It's got everything you're going to need to know about how LinkedIn works and what the best ideas are and what the best strategies are. That way you can kind of go through it, see if it resonates, see if it's even something you want to get educated more on, and then let me know. Like if it really strikes a nerve and you want to learn more, then we can talk. So like I can avoid doing a 60-minute free education call and just give them my book instead. So again, what will happen here, just so you know, is if you ask people to fill out an online form prior to talking with you live, will that dramatically cut down the number of calls you generate from leads on LinkedIn? Yes. So if your goal is, I just want a calendar filled with calls all day, by doing an online qualifying form, if you do this step, you're going to cut way down, because some people won't do it, whatever it might be. Without a doubt, you're going to have fewer calls. Now, that said, you will gain back so much time, and more importantly, you will increase the quality of the calls you do have as a result. So this literally just happened the other day. Somebody left me another voicemail wanting to talk about the services. They literally said on the voicemail, I don't want to fill out a form. I just want to talk. I'm old school. I don't do forms. I just want to have a conversation. I've learned now that's typically a huge red flag. So instead of immediately calling the person back like I used to, I actually had a member of my team reach out and follow up with this person over email to kind of do a little more gathering and digging. Turns out this person who had left me the message, they claimed the type form didn't work, which isn't true. It works, like I've checked. So maybe they're tech challenged, or maybe they just didn't want to fill out the form and they're lying about it. Also, second, they wanted to pitch us. They wanted to pitch me a sponsorship opportunity for a live event they had coming up. And then third, and far in the distance, was maybe we could help them find other people to sign up for this live event through LinkedIn. So yikes, that would have been a disaster of a call. Now, the old me, right, scarcity mindset, John, I would have blocked an hour at a time. I would have prepped for the call. I would have researched this person. I would have come up with a bunch of ideas. I would have even dressed up and driven across town. Because I'm from the Midwest, where I can't be blunt and direct, I would have just sat there and politely listened to them pitch me or blather on and try to figure out how to, escape the call, right? Even knowing there's nothing in this for me. And I would have wasted all this time and energy and effort and been furious with myself afterward because I didn't know how to extricate myself. Now, if you're from the Midwest, you know this. Like, East Coast New Yorkers are blunt. They're like, I don't want to talk to you. Get out of here. Like, they're much more direct and blunt. Like, Minnesota, where I'm from, people it's hard. Like, we're passive aggressive, so we don't know how to just extricate ourselves or be too blunt. Anyway, here's the key thing. Sales, again, I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face. Sales is all about leverage. It's about authority, and it's also about confidence. So if you don't set the right frame for the sales call or the exchange, your prospect will. And that's not a place you want to be in. You don't want to be hopping and dancing to their beat. You want to set the tone of, if you want to talk to me live, and if you want my expertise, and if you want my insights, these are the steps that are necessary to make sure I can bring you value and save you time, and make sure that we get the most bang for our buck for the call for both of us. Now, another great thing about having people fill out a qualifying form before you talk live is, yes, you can get them a better outcome and better resources. So, again, I said this earlier, but if someone says, I'm just exploring, then I'll send them a free copy of my book or a training video, or maybe they say on the form, well, I just really want to learn how to use LinkedIn messages. Great. I've got an entire free training on LinkedIn messages, or I have an online course on this or that. So remember this idea too. If someone says, hey, I just want to see how your services work, I just want to see how your agency works, I learned over the years, oh, okay, well, rather than me sit on a call live and show you with, walking through on different screens, hey, here's how this works, and here's how we do this, and here's how we manage a project, and here's how we create this and that. I just made a screen recording video of it, and then I was able to just bottle it up and share it. So now if someone says in the type form, well, I more just want to know how your agency works and what makes you different than other agencies and, how you guys go about working with clients, I can be like, great, here's a 7-minute walkthrough. Knock yourself out. Here's a video. Watch that. And if that resonates, and if that looks a lot different than what you've done in the past and the other agencies you haven't liked, then we can talk more live. But that way I don't have to spend time on a live call making sure I'm on my game and having all the screens pulled up that I need to and, pointing everything out and sharing everything. So remember this idea. Record or create something once, bottle it up, and then you can share it over and over and over with multiple people so they can educate, explore, etc. on their own time instead of you having to do it live for one person at a time. Now, a really cool tip for you as of this recording is using artificial intelligence and AI, kind of integrating that with your screen recording. So what I mean is, for example, when I make a walkthrough video, say someone says, I want to know how your agency works. I'll be like, great, I'm going to show you on my screen how we do X, Y, and Z. I'll go on your LinkedIn profile and I'll do all these things and talk while I'm showing things on my screen. I use a tool called Loom, L-O-O-M, Loom. There's a million of them, right? But what I like about Loom is I can record everything on the screen while I'm narrating. So, hey, I'm going to show you over here. This is how we update your LinkedIn profile. And hey, over here is how we do this. And over here is how we manage your project in this tool and this software. And over here is a tool we use to do this and this and this. Then Loom can record it all. And then it automatically creates a transcript. And I can also use the AI features built into Loom where it will instantly create a step-by-step bullet list of everything covered in the video. It'll automatically slice the video up into chapters covering the key points that I talked about. It will automatically create like a standard operating procedure or SOP. It'll make step-by-step lists, instructions, whatever. It can even write blog posts based on what you narrated in the video. So again, the idea is bottle it up, repurpose it, use AI to automate and streamline and smooth it out, and that's saving you time. And again, that's how you're going to pre-qualify people with content before you get on live. So now we'll get into a little bit more of the psychology and the specifics of what to put into a pre-call kind of qualification form online. So I'll actually walk through the exact online form that I use to pre-qualify people for our, services, our LinkedIn lead generation services in our agency. This is the exact form I have people fill out before we talk live on Zoom or on the phone or whatever. So here, I'm going to walk through and explain why I'm doing what I'm asking, why I ask it. Some are open-ended questions, some are multiple choice, some are yes and no. The goal, of course, is to make filling out this form as fast and painless and easy as possible. But I also have a very specific method to the madness in terms of looking for red flags or objections. So I'll start with real basic questions like, what type of work do you do? Who's your target audience? How long have you been in business? Tell me more about what types of products or services you offer. And those are all pretty fast and easy for people to answer. And the goal is simply to see on my end, is this person in a niche we've served before? Depending on what type of work they do, who their audience is, and what their services are, I know in my head, oh, we've already worked with 100 different clients like that. Cool. I already have 10 case studies I can show, all that. If they're in some random weird new niche, then I'm like, oh, okay, wait, I have to prepare for this. This is a brand new niche I've never worked in before. Now, depending on how the rest of the form goes, the type form, I still might do the live call if I think they could be a really lucrative client, but I'll just prepare ahead of time. And here's a little bonus tip of what I'll do. I'll actually use AI to prep for the call. So what I'll do is if someone fills out a type form and it's a new niche and it's stuff I don't know and I'm like, I've never worked in that niche, it's Norwegian architecture. Okay, well, I don't know anything about that. Like, how would I help them sell that on LinkedIn? I can go into AI and I could say, hey, this is my situation. I run a LinkedIn lead generation agency. I had a small business owner come to me who does niche work with Norwegian architecture. His target audience is blank and he wants to sell these types of architecture projects. Can you help me, like in layman terms, explain what this industry even is? Explain to me the pain points that this person's clients might have. Explain to me how you would market this person on LinkedIn. What are some ideas you would give me? What approach would you take if you were going to market this Norwegian architecture firm on LinkedIn? And by the way, AI will do it all instantly. It's like the greatest consultant ever. And again, it's not 100% pitch perfect, but it will give you enough frameworks and ideas that you can go, oh, cool. Now I can come into the sales call with this person going, hey, I went ahead and did a bunch of research on Norwegian architecture and your industry and your niche. We haven't worked with anyone specifically on LinkedIn just like you, but I'm excited. That's an opportunity for us. We don't have... we're not locked in or jaded or too in the bubble. Like we've really got fresh eyes. And also, I really can see, just based on some research I've done, the opportunity for you on LinkedIn. Here, let me show you. You would write messages like this. And here's an example of what your target list of prospects could be. Does that look right? Oh, wow, that's perfect. Hey, here's an example of how, you could really hit on the key pain points that I think people probably have around, your Norwegian architecture projects. And you could dazzle them with all your prep work. So that's another bonus where, again, I go into the AI and I'll say, like, hey, here's what the situation is. This is the person. This is the industry. Here's the answers they gave me. They wrote a bunch of jargon I don't understand. Can you translate for me? What the heck is this? And the AI, if you ask it, will give you a simple explanation. Oh, this is what they do. They want to sell this to this type of person, and here's the benefit. And then you can ask the AI questions like this. Okay, cool. Like, what typically goes into business deals in this niche? Like, what does someone like my new prospect need to do? What do they need to share? What do they need to show a lead in order to get a deal done? Who's involved in the buying decisions in this industry? How does the sales process for my prospect typically work? Is it months? Is it years? Is it pretty quick? What are the biggest pain points, that people in this industry have that my prospect could solve for them? What would be the things you would lead with? And if you use AI to educate yourself this way, you'll never go into a call unprepared. You have this instant ability now to get up to speed without having to spend hours on Google and reading articles and reading blogs. AI can boil it all down for you as an expert and prep you. And you can say, great, could you write out a list of questions for me and structure a call with this prospect and give me the exact things to say in the order to ask them in? Sure. And it'll spit it all out. And there you go. You have your blueprint. So the idea here, again, it's a little bit of an aside, go into that call ready to show the prospect that, hey, while we haven't worked with people exactly like you before, I went ahead and did some pre-work already, and I discovered X, Y, and Z about your niche on LinkedIn. I'm excited to show you some examples of potential prospect lists, message ideas, lead gen strategies, and that indicates to this prospect, oh, wow, this guy's already done his homework. He's gotten educated on our niche. And what he's showing me is the exact type of people I want to talk to. And he's really dialed in on the strategies and the messaging. So again, the last thing about this part of the type form that we use, based on what someone will tell you about their business, I'm also going to know based on experience if there'll be a client that will have an easier or hard time with getting wins for. Right? Depending on how effective LinkedIn is for this specific type of niche. If you've done your business long enough, oh, my best type of clients fit these criteria in terms of this job, this role, this industry, whatever, this type of setup. So and again, this is helping you prioritize your sales calls to go, that guy is a better lead because I know we've gotten a ton of wins for him. He'll be a great client, very lucrative, very whatever, profitable. So that's another thing. Now, I'll also ask this on the type form. Have you ever used another LinkedIn lead generation agency before? For you, you might say, have you ever used another business coach before? Have you ever used a XYZ type consultant before? Have you ever used another SEO agency before? Like, ask, have you ever used someone like me before? And if they answer no, great. We just move to the next question because, again, I have a smart form, conditional logic. If no, go to the next question. If they answer yes, then I have it say, oh, okay, well, tell us, how did things go with the other agency? What did they do for you? How did things turn out? Because again, I want to know, like, did it go well? Did it go terrible? Do you have scars from that? Are you nervous? Like, did they knock it out of the park? If so, what are you doing here? So, again, you can ask questions like that. Are you still using that agency? That's another question I'll ask, based on, no matter how they answer, I'll say, well, are you still using that agency? Because if they say yes, then I'll be like, okay, well, wait a minute. So you already have an agency. you're still using them, well, then why would you want to hire us? Like, I would want to maybe poke around at that a little bit before I get on a 1 hour call. And then oftentimes, and again, this is from experience, I found when I asked someone that on a live call, are you using an agency? Oh, yeah, we got a great one. They're doing awesome for us. We're getting this many leads a month, and blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, oh, well, why are we talking? We do the exact same thing. And if it sounds like you're happy with them, oh, I just wanted to kind of pick your brain and see if there's anything you're doing that my current agency isn't, so I can go back to them and tell them you should do this too. It's like, oh man, I wish I could have avoided that, right? So again, if someone's worked with another business similar to yours in the past, how did it go? Find that out. If it's going great, why do they want to talk to you? And that I talked about that. One person admitted to me, well, yeah, I'm just trying to basically steal ideas to go back to my current agency with. Listen, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't, care like if you want to do that, but I would rather you figure that out on your own time. Go through my walkthrough videos, read my book, go through my trainings, see if there's anything there that your current agency isn't doing. But most importantly, spend your time on that. Don't take up my time one-on-one on a 60-minute call with me explaining everything we do and comparing me to your agency. Like, I'm fine on your own, because we all do that. We all research competitors and we go, okay, I need to hire a plumber. I'm going to go look and see, does this plumber do all these features? Well, this plumber over here has these extra features. Which one do I want? Or I might ask this first plumber if he'll do these other features because I like his pricing better, et cetera, et cetera. So again, what you're looking for in that instance is what a prospect thinks is going on. So that's why I ask also about, how did things go with the other, insert the blank, the other agency, the other coach, the other consultant. If they say it didn't go well, you want to have another question pop up and say, why do you think that was? Okay. And again, this is where you can do a lot of conditional logic, because if someone comes in and they say, yeah, I've used other LinkedIn agencies, it didn't go well at all, I want to know why that was. Maybe the other agency in this case used all generic scripts and generic templates and used overseas virtual assistants, and it was just spammy and it was all cheap and templated. Well, that would be one reason, and I could then position us as a completely different alternative and differentiate us really well. You also want to see some self-reflection out of a prospect. Do they take any responsibility for the failed attempts, and the failed previous things with the other vendors that are similar to you? Do they see any reason why it didn't work? Well, I've worked with 3 other agencies. It could just be because our audience might not be on LinkedIn, but I'm still not sure. Something like that, right? So again, if, for example, the prospect has used 3 different LinkedIn lead gen agencies, said all 3 were terrible, maybe it's the prospect who's the problem and not the agencies, right? Do I really want to be the 4th one? Also, you got to figure out if someone's used a bunch of services or vendors or people just like you before and failed at it, they're going to come in with a lot of scar tissue. They're going to come in and, even if logically you can show the prospect, hey, we're unique, we're different, we're better than that other agency. We don't use overseas VAs. We don't just use generic templates. We personalize everything. They still have emotional baggage to deal with. Also, that prospect at this point may not trust himself or herself to make a good decision. Because I've failed 3 times in the past to hire the right agency or pick the right vendor. Oh, what if this is another one where I make a mistake? So if you know that ahead of time, you can go into that sales conversation and you can say, hey, listen, I know you've mentioned, let's talk about that you've used 3 agencies in the past that didn't work. Tell me why that is, and we'll work through that. And then you can say, okay, well, to borrow a line from, every romantic comedy ever, like, well, we're not like the other girls. We're not like the other guys. Here's how we're different. Does that feel different enough to you that if you put your trust in us, different action, different behavior gets a different result, right? And then you can kind of walk through that objection and move on. So next up in the form, and I know there's a lot to it, right? And I'm explaining each section as I go. I'll do something, that might make a lot of people hesitate. I'll ask about money. I've learned this because, again, I did so many calls where I'd spend an hour and I'd be afraid to talk about money and afraid to talk about price. I would get to the end and the person would be like, I can't afford that. No way. Like, I only make $1 a month. I can't pay you. Like, oh, okay. So what I basically do in my pre-qualifying form, my type form, is I ask a question at this point. What is one new client or one new sale worth to you? And then I follow up with, what's your current monthly revenue? What's your target monthly revenue over the next 6 months? And then I'll say, what do you think is the single biggest hurdle right now preventing you from hitting your target monthly revenue? So basically, what's one new sale worth? How much money are you currently bringing in per month? How much do you wish you were bringing in per month? And what do you think is holding you back from hitting that goal? So now listen, back when I had the scarcity mindset, I'd be afraid to ask that. And I was even nervous when I first put this into the type form. But I learned a couple things. One is if I didn't ask that question, I wasted a lot of time talking to broke people and unqualified people. And that just got very draining. So the other thing that was really interesting was with type form, you can measure with the analytics where people drop off or leave. So it'll show you, hey, you have 20 questions. 78% of people who don't complete the form leave because of question 7, right? Or leave because of question 9. What I found in analyzing the type forms over time was nobody was leaving due to the money questions. Those weren't questions where someone's like, oh, I can't believe you'd ask about that. Forget it. I'm out of here. Like they would fill it out, and they do. They'll say, oh, one new sale for me is worth $5,000 US. And then I'll say I'll have a little drop down. Is that recurring, monthly, lifetime? So then you know the value. And people would say my current monthly revenue is $10,000 US a month. My goal is to get to $50,000 US a month in the next 6 months. I think what's holding me back is I don't have a steady source of qualified leads and I'm living on referrals. So again, it's something I had to get over that fear and take that risk. For me, at least, that hasn't scared people away. It's not the money questions that stop people from filling out the form. So that's great, right? Because again, these money questions matter because one, you want to know if someone can afford your services. If they're bringing, let's say you're selling a $100,000 service and your prospect says on a pre-call form, I am bringing in $5,000 a month in revenue. They're not going to be able to sign up and afford your service. Better to learn that on a pre-call type form than at minute 59 of a 60-minute sales call, correct? Well, I really like it. It all sounds great, but unfortunately right now I'm only making $5,000 a month in revenue. I can't buy your $100,000 package. Oh, right. So number one is you want to know if they can afford your services. 2 is you want to know the ROI of working with you and if it makes sense for the prospect. That's why I ask what is the value of one sale or one client, because then I can say to a prospect in a sales call, hey, you know what? And I'm just going to make up numbers. This isn't my real numbers, but hey, you said one new sale for you is $25,000. This done for you program is a year of XYZ and all these deliverables. It only costs $50,000. So knowing that one sale for you is $25K, if we work together for a whole year and you make 2 sales in a year, you've gotten your money back. And the reality is with us reaching out to this many people and this many leads, if we do the math, if you think you're as good at closing as you are, you should be making way more than 2 sales a year, right? And they're like, yeah, okay. And doesn't that feel pretty low risk that we work with you for a year and you only have to close 2 deals to pay us back? Oh, okay. That's where the ROI comes in. So if I know what the value of one new sale is for you, I can price accordingly. I don't have to have a one-size-fits-all price. For example, if somebody says one new sale for me is worth $500,000, if I was to come to them and go, hey, no matter who you are, I just charge $50 a month. No, now that I know what the value is for you, I'm going to charge more, because if one sale for you is $100,000, I'm not going to charge $50 a month. I'm going to charge $50,000 a month, right? Because whatever it is, I don't know, $500 a month, $5,000 a month. The point being 2 things. One is you can price dynamically, knowing on the value that person's going to get from your service. And 2, you can bring more value if you raise your rates. So if I'm charging more to a client, I can put more resources into that campaign. I can bring more people on board. I can afford, more content or more writers or more whatever is needed, and I can justify the higher price that way, because I'm saying I know that you're selling a $100,000 service. I'm going to bring in the A team, and I'm going to bring in extra people and extra resources and extra tools. So that's going to end up being still a very reasonable price for you. It's going to be $10,000 a month, $120,000 a year. Since you're selling a $100,000 service, we basically just have to make, one sale in a year or, 2 sales in a year to double your money, right? So that's how you can price dynamically if you know the money questions. And that's a really key thing. Now, the next thing I'll ask about, and let me explain this, is that there's always a story behind the money answers. So when I ask someone, what's your current revenue? What do you wish it would be? Or where do you want it to be in 6 months? What do you think is holding you back right now from hitting that goal? You want to really pay attention to the answer, to the story. So here's an example. So I've had a prospect say, hey, my current monthly revenue is $5,000 US a month. My goal in 6 months is to be at $50,000 in revenue. That often is a red flag. because are they really being realistic? If you're currently at $5,000 a month, do you have the financial resources and or the mindset to 10x your business in the next 6 months? Maybe you do, but I'm going to ask about that before I get on a live call. I'm going to say, hey, I see there's a huge gap between where you're at and where you want to get. How would you do that, right? So you can kind of poke into that a little bit more. What I found a lot of times with people who answer that way, I'm at $5,000 a month, I want a 10x in 6 months, I just need more help. They will often come on a call, and what they want to do is have you work for free. Whoa, great, sign me up. What they'll do is they'll basically say, hey, I have this grand vision. I have this brilliant idea. I'm only making $5,000 a month from it right now, but it's because I just need a partner to do XYZ part of it. If I have the right partner, it's unlimited for everyone, and I'll cut you in, and I'll give you a commission, and we'll split the proceeds, and this, and this, and this, and this. And what I typically find is that's not the case. The reality is if your idea was that great and if you were that talented at executing it, you'd already be at $50,000 a month, right? You wouldn't be at $5,000 a month. So I learned that the hard way over the years of kind of, oh, that does sound great. Everything sounds great. Every idea sounds great. It's the execution, it's the implementation that matters. And if, again, you're going to hear this a lot from me throughout this book, but a phrase I learned early on from my business coach was, you win or lose based on client selection. You win or lose based on the clients you select. So if you select somebody that talks a good game, but they're not able to back any of it up, you're going to end up in a bad spot with them as a client. So anyway, I've learned a lot from that. And I'm also, when people approach you that way and they're like, well, listen, I can't afford to pay you what you're asking, but if it works, I'm happy to pay you more. And if it works, I'll give you a bonus. And if I close this many deals, I'll give you a cut. And what I've learned to kind of say to that is that sounds great. I'm just not in a place where I can really afford to fund somebody else's future. Like I've got to pay my team. I've got to, run my own business. I don't say it that directly or that, bluntly to them. But that's essentially what they're saying is, will you fund my venture? And if it works, I'll pay you back because you're giving away your services for free or for a discount. And again, you don't want to have that scarcity mindset where you're like, okay, well, again, I guess so. Because again, if someone comes to you and they're like, well, if I close a sale, you get a cut. And if I do this, you wouldn't walk into an Apple store and be like, can you guys give me an iPhone for free? I'm going to use it for work and I'm going to use it to make cold calls. And if this iPhone, let's see, if I can close deals with this iPhone, I will give you guys here at Apple a cut, right? It doesn't work that way, right? You got to pay for the phone and do what you want to do. Again, this is why you really want to make sure you dive into these questions. And the last part I'll tag on while I'm piling on these poor people that want to be business partners. I say that to them, like I don't need any more business partners. I'll provide the service. It's your job to close the leads. At the end of the day, it's out of my hands. So for example, with our service, we're generating leads on LinkedIn for you. If you're not able to close those leads, that's not my fault. I'm not on your sales team. I'm not doing your sales calls. So at the end of the day, I don't want it to degenerate into this argument of, the leads are weak. The leads are great. The leads are weak. Why didn't you close them? Again, if you can't control the outcome, don't go into business with someone where it's dependent on their ability to do something for you to get paid. That would be my other big piece of business advice here is don't enter into an agreement where the other person has to come through for you to get paid. If you can't control every piece of it and get paid for those pieces, then I would be very wary of entering into that relationship no matter how good a game the other person talks. Okay, sorry, I just get off on my little tangents.